Good morning again for everyone who joined. We are delighted to welcome you to our webinar, Unlocking the Bio-LNG Value Chain, Market Insights and Regulatory Overview for Bio-LNG from the Zeebrugge terminal. My name is Kelsey Winkel. I'm from the sales team at Agriportens. I welcome you all to our webinar today. You can find all the extra information about our events on our webpage. Furthermore, I would like to note that this webinar is being recorded and anonymized and will be shared on our YouTube channel somewhere during the next days. With most likely, you will get the link by tomorrow. We will start the presentation by Henning Dix, followed by a presentation by Alexandra Lerut from Fluxys. And to kick off, we welcome Henning Dix, co-founder of Agriportens, who will give us an insight into the bio-LNG market and the regulatory landscape. So Henning, I will give you, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kelsey, for the nice introduction, and I'm quite honored to speak today together with Alexandra from Fluxys about different topics in the bio-LNG market, which is evolving a lot. In my presentation today, I want to give you a general overview of the market, biomethane, bio-LNG, and also the regulatory landscape. To present myself, Henning Dix, I'm the CEO and co-founder of the company Agriportens. I'm quite happy and keen to give you today a good overview. First of all, I saw also like the list of attendees, and there were a few which are maybe not aware what Agriportens is doing or not so well. So a small presentation of ours to kickstart. At Agriportens, we're having two big service streams. On the one side, wet compliance and gas shipping services. It's like a software and service for all WET 2, WET 3 related topics, and also the gas shipping in Germany and all over Europe. And tailored matchmaking process where we connect producers and off-takers of biomethane, liquid CO2, and bio-LNG in different markets. German transport sector, but also like UK transport sector, Swiss heating market, maritime sector, industry clients. In the next two slides, I would like to give you a small feeling of the upstream of biomethane, bio-LNG in Europe. And this is quite immense. Here you see an overview from the EBA, which shows the development of the biomethane plant since 2011. And we see a quite steady growth over the year. Here in orange, the new plants per year. And especially, since 2020, also a good increase in new plants, so that we currently, on the year 2024, had a total of more than 1,600 plants. Our internal calculations, we see the possibility that in end of 2025, there will be more than 1,800 plants all over Europe. To give you a small overview, main producers are like Germany, France, Italy, but also the UK, Denmark, and the Netherlands. But we see strong growth in Spain and Eastern Europe, and also a high potential there. Why? Also a lot of project developers in Spain, but also a lot of agricultural companies, farmers are quite active in Eastern Europe. As an addition, also the existing market, Denmark, is doing quite well and developing new plants at the moment. And a total of 70 terawatt hours per year of production in the EU. I think this figure is quite important because I will also show later a little bit the demand for bio-LNG in the road transport in Europe, but also in the maritime sector. And I think this figure, therefore, is quite important to have a look in. Here, as mentioned, France, Germany, Denmark are like quite good in the production. France overtook Germany in 2024 with a production volume with steady growth, to be honest, over the last years. But also Denmark, Italy are quite standing in a good position with 7 or a little bit more than 4 terawatt hours. And also other markets are quite evolving. Yeah, but let us look a little bit into the downstream. Today, we want to focus a little bit on LNG, bio-LNG. Here, different studies and also a little bit different outlooks. On the left side, the LNG demand from shipping in Europe in terawatt hours, and on the right side, the LNG demand from road transport, so for trucks and so on. To be honest, both markets are important for the European biomethane and bio-LNG market, and both markets grew over the last years. And there is still a potential that there is further growth. To be honest, I'm more sophisticated with the maritime sector, where I honestly see a more solid future. Also, when we look at the order books of different maritime players, which are all ordering different vessels. This morning, I had also a discussion where we looked a little bit into the order books for the next years, and their LNG vessels made 1 out of 3 orders, while fossil vessels were a little bit more than LNG vessels, but you see that there's quite a good uptick. And also when we look at the LNG demand in this year, it's roughly like 70 terawatt hours, and the outlook could be that it will be above 100 terawatt hours demand from shipping for LNG. Could be fossil LNG, could be bio-LNG, but also synthetic or e-LNG. But also when we look at the production of 70 terawatt hours currently, there is quite a lot of bio-LNG to bring into the sector, for instance, via the Zeebrugge terminal, but also via other routes which are important. The road transport sector here on the right side, there we see a little bit steady growth over the last years. And I think also in the energy crisis, there was quite a little bit a downturn in Germany, in the Netherlands. But also what we're seeing is that in specific markets in Europe, there are still new filling stations opened. And also we hope, of course, that also the demand at the existing filling stations will grow over the next years. But I think the comparison is quite important, as this LNG demand for road transport may be 12 to 14 terawatt hours. The LNG demand from shipping can go above 100 terawatt hours when we believe in these figures. And to be honest, the potential I see from shipping also beyond 2030 goes above this 100 terawatt hours, while I see more stagnation maybe in the LNG demand from road transport. But talking about a little bit about shipping and also the road transport, what we currently see, and also this is part of ongoing discussions, is that the shipping, the maritime sector is mostly demanding so-called subsidized biomethane or subsidized proof of sustainability, which means that these are in general a little bit cheaper. But on the next slides, I want to define it a little bit. While the classical compliance road transport markets in the Netherlands, in Germany, and other European markets are demanding this so-called unsubsidized volumes. But let me explain a little bit the differentiation between subsidized and also unsubsidized biomethane. As from our daily discussions, these are often questions which are getting raised. The subsidized volumes, these are biomethane volumes which are supported by member states' production subsidies. Could be a feed-in tariff, so that you already get like 37 or 40 euro per megawatt hour by injecting the biomethane to the gas grid, for instance, in Denmark. This biomethane can still receive a so-called guarantee of origin via Energinet, via Vertiser. These GOs offer additional optional revenue for producers. And for instance, 1 or 2 years ago, most of the revenue for a producer with a feed-in tariff in Denmark or in the Netherlands came over the molecule price for the gas and also the feed-in tariff. And nowadays, also, when I show the prices later, this green premium from the subsidized certificate is quite immense, of course, depending a little bit on the CI score. In comparison, the unsubsidized volumes, there is no state subsidy. They are sold at a higher green premium. This biomethane is a little bit tied to obligation schemes with penalties. I don't know, the Dutch HBE market, the UK RTFC market, the German GHG quota market. Buyers are driven by compliance needs and not voluntary action. And to be honest, currently producers who can get this subsidy or have a feed-in tariff have a quite good role in the market, mostly due to the maritime sector. But who are like these producers of subsidized biomethane? Here's some examples where producers can get or have an access to such a feed-in tariff. So such an this few cents per kilowatt hour already by only injecting the gas into the grid. Denmark, Netherlands, UK are quite interesting because these producers have the availability or are able to switch between subsidized and unsubsidized production, which means in the last year, a lot of Danish and Dutch producers did not want to have the feed-in tariff. They said we want to be part of this unsubsidized market and then sold their biomethane, for instance, with a CI score of -50, -70, -100 to the German transport sector. And now they're saying since April, May this year, we don't want to take any more part of this unsubsidized market. We want to get our feed-in tariff because we see for ourselves better arbitrage effects using our feed-in tariff and then selling the volumes into the maritime sector. France and Italy are just quite tight to their feed-in tariff, so there it's also not so easy for them after 5 years saying we are going now into the free market, similar with Sweden, and there are some other states which also have some OPEX feed-in tariff. Yeah, one big market for the bio LNG is the so-called FuelEU Maritime. For a specific type of bigger ships, so mostly dry bulk, liquid bulk carriers, different kind of bigger ferries, container ships, which are in European waters, fall under the so-called FuelEU Maritime since 1st of January 2025. This FuelEU Maritime is in addition to the EU ETS for maritime, which is in place since 2024. So as a ship operator using bio LNG under certain conditions, you can have an exemption from the EU ETS, which is quite nice. And as an addition, you are also then over compliant under the FuelEU Maritime. This whole FuelEU Maritime could be complemented by IMO regulations in the future. Not in the near future, maybe, but maybe in the next years, which is more than a global initiative to reduce the CI carbon intensity in global shipping. Here you see a little bit the thresholds, so the reduction targets well to wake for these shipping fleets until 2050. And you see starting with a tiny reduction of 2%, it goes up to 80%. But already this tiny reduction of 2% led to high prices for the certificate in the market, the surplus, which is traded in euro per ton CO2 equivalent, similar to other CI markets, and also, of course, high prices for the biomethane. Bio LNG. Yesterday I was at a conference in Hamburg, it was more a maritime conference, and bio LNG and LNG itself is quite interesting for these maritime players, to be honest. Not only because it's nice, climate neutral, and available, also because we can get this negative CI with manure and also a mixture of manure and waste, but also with the carbon capture and storage or replacement. And therefore, bio LNG also compared to biodiesel or some e-fuels has such this interesting role also of this CI negativity, also on the way to wake emissions. While LNG will be compliant, so here you see the CI thresholds until 2035, especially bio LNG from waste or bio LNG with a negative CI will be over compliant even in the year 2050. And of course, what's quite clear, the lower the CI score, the more limited the supply. And as mentioned, only Wittenbos and bio-LNG produced from residues or manure are compliant in the long term. Yeah, this is quite clear. I think most of you are quite aware of this GHG calculation. Important to highlight, of course, that in this whole maritime sector, we're speaking about the well-to-wake emissions in most cases. So the emissions from the production until the usage of the fuel at the ship. So like the classical wake usage. So there's some more emissions and some other slightly different calculations than we are used to from the transport sector in Germany, for instance, but it's all possible. Yeah, this whole FuelEU Maritime led to increasing prices. As mentioned before, it was in place since 1st of January 2025. What I have here, quite easy price formation of 3 different qualities, which are quite often traded in this market. Proof of sustainability with +5 grams CO2 equivalent per megajoule, so classical bio-waste, methane. A POS with a CI score of -50 grams, which is mostly derived from a Danish plant, from a Dutch plant, with a mixture of advanced waste and manure feedstocks, and the POS with -100 grams, so only manure digestion. What we see here, and that's quite interesting, so there was not much happening in the first months of the year. So I would say between January, February, March, so Q1, many fleet operators with different ships, but also a lot of producers, traders in the market. In these months, they more started to think about the FuelEU Maritime and what implications there would be. It was also quite uncertain how the route will be, how bio-LNG can be supplied into the market, and also whether you should use subsidized or unsubsidized volumes. And there are some uncertainties which are not solved until now, but which are somehow more or less solved. Everything kicked in April, May, and there we had like a quite high price explosion until October this year, October, November, to be honest, where we came from for this -100 gram from 23 euros up to 70 euros, and also there were deals in the market with 74, 75 euros only for the POS, excluding the gas. Also for you, these prices shown here would be for subsidized biomethane. So biomethane, which already got a feed-in tariff, mostly so market standard in ARA and also in Northern Europe would be volumes from Danish producers or Dutch producers. German producers will not generally not take part of this market currently, because for a German producer with an unsubsidized volume, they could easier sell their volumes into the German transport sector, or for instance, with waste volumes, so +5, there's still a good premium when they would sell it to the UK market or to the Swiss market, compared to when they would go into the subsidized market. Yeah, here prices shown for the German transport sector, quite clear. So we came from a high price level in 2022 due to the gas crisis and due to the high quota prices. It developed a little bit since then. I think what's important for the market that due to the higher quota prices we have at the moment, the whole value chain is generating money again, or for those in the value chain who are doing a good job are generating money. So producers of biomethane with a solid production, but also operators who go via Zeebrugge or another place, liquefied, and then bring it into the transport sector, are happy with the current situation. But of course, it's not like this hype we had in the year 2022. Current price here for the spot delivery, so gas plus POS would be around 130 euro, while we already came from something around 95. Yeah, so this would it be for the small introduction into the German European biomethane bio-LNG market. And also a little bit, I wanted to give you a small glimpse of the regulatory framework with the FuelEU Maritime, subsidized, unsubsidized, and so on. And then I would like to hand over to Kelsey again.
Yes, thank you, Henning, for your presentation. Yes, then I would like to continue with Alexandra from Fluxys, who will provide us with an up-to-date update for the biomethane liquefaction services at Zeebrugge. Yes, you can go on, Alexandra.
Thank you, Kesley. Thank you, Henning. It's very nice that you're bringing this market awareness to the audience today. We have seen it as a very important driver on the market. It's a complex market, the bioLNG, the biomethane. We are dealing with a fast changing regulatory landscape. So every awareness, every insights that a company like Agriportens can bring is very valuable. So let me introduce shortly Fluxys, my company. Fluxys Group, it's an infrastructure, energy infrastructure company with a strong historical presence in Europe on the natural gas, but we are deeply engaged in the energy transition and with the different molecules. We believe that the energy transition will be a shared solution of different solutions, different molecules, and also electrons together with electrons as a complementary solution. We have a strong presence today in Western Europe, of course, but also in Greece, Latin America, and Oman. Our activities are the transport of those molecules, the terminaling, we are going to discuss about that, and also storage, underground storage of natural gas. This is a map of the different LNG terminals in Europe. We are operating the Zeebrugge LNG terminal in Belgium, also the one in Dunkirk in the north of France, and we're also engaged in Greece. Today we are going to talk shortly about Dunkirk and Zeebrugge, where those two terminals have been certified for bioLNG. Dunkirk LNG terminal first. So in the north of France, we have a dedicated commercial team that takes care of this terminal, dedicated commercial team I'm close contact with. So we have it's quite a large terminal in Europe with 3 storage tanks, total volume capacity of 600,000 cubic meters. There's possibility for truck loading in Dunkirk, so for bioLNG consumers that might be a service to be looked at. The terminal of Dunkirk plays an important role for the security of supply in Western Europe. You see the capacity on the slide. A big part of this capacity is also actively used to supply both French and also Belgium, the Benelux area, with a direct connection pipeline. In the following of the presentation, I'm going to focus more about the Fluxys LNG terminal in Zeebrugge LNG terminal that has been commissioned in 1987. The terminal has today 5 storage tanks, 2 jetties, 4 self-loading truck loading bays, and has also a big important role for the security of supply in Europe, with a total send-out capacity of gigawatt hour per hour. The Zeebrugge terminal is certified for bioLNG since 2020. That was a first one in Europe, and today we see more and more terminals being certified. Our truck loading capacity is 14,000 slots per year, so there's still room there if you want to start an activity. An interesting parameter of the Zeebrugge terminal is that it's a fully regulated terminaling activity. Third-party access, so any company has a fair chance to start its activity, to become a customer, and to get services with terms and conditions and tariffs which are publicly available on our website. Looking at the different infrastructure assets of the LNG terminal, we have the 2 jetties. We can there accommodate vessels ranging from 1,000 cubic meter to the largest LNG carrier, the Q-Max vessels, up to 266,000 megawatt hour. We do have the 5 storage tanks, regasification process, of course, and connection to the gas grid. I mentioned the 4 loading bays for truck loading, with the possibility of doing self-assisted loadings. Now, looking at the bioLNG volume, the bioLNG demand of the last months, the last 2 years, we have seen an increase, a very significant increase, first on the bioLNG truck loading. So especially for bioLNG going to the German market in particular. As we know, the RED II transposition to the RED III in Germany has been very interesting for bioLNG, considering the low carbon intensity that bioLNG can deliver. And what's new this year is the increase on the bunker ship loadings, an increase that is today still going on, and that is driven, like Henning explained, by the FuelEU Maritime, mainly. You see also the pie chart on the slide. So today, almost 2/3 of the truck loadings that we do at Zeebrugge are related to bioLNG volumes, and 1/3 of the bunker ship loadings is related to bioLNG. So still some room to improve those bioLNG share in the coming months. In less than 2 years, this bioLNG demand increased by a factor 10. We had 0.2 terawatt-hour in 2023, and the expectation for 2025 is that we will arrive above the 2 terawatt-hour. So it's about 3% of the biomethane production in Europe that is commercially flowing to the Zeebrugge terminal to be liquefied. How to get bioLNG at the Zeebrugge terminal? The terminal is a bit like a Swiss knife. You need to combine the different services to get to the desired output. The different services you need to combine for bioLNG are presented here on the slide. First, you have the possibility to bring gas to the terminal via what we call the backhaul liquefaction service, via backhaul nomination. So it's a counterflow nomination where you can, from the gas grid with gas, increase directly your LNG storage in the terminal. Of course, you have dedicated services for storing LNG and to load the LNG into trucks or into ships. And last but not least, and the service I'm going to focus on, are the biomethane liquefaction services, so our ability to convert biomethane proof of sustainability certificates into bioLNG proof of sustainability certificates. This service goes in parallel to the other commodity service where the molecules are flowing. So how to convert biomethane to bioLNG proof of sustainability certificate? First, you need to be active under a so-called European voluntary scheme. And the one that has been chosen for the Zeebrugge terminal is ASCC EU. It's a worldwide, well-known voluntary scheme. And we have decided to have Fluxys LNG certified as a processing unit since 2020. This means that our clients need to be registered as a trader with storage. With storage because the storage part needs to be covered. And we decided to have this scope under the certification of our clients to give them full flexibility on the way they can manage their storage. The processing unit, so Fluxys LNG, is converting the POS, receiving biomethane POS from its client, from its terminal users, and issuing bioLNG POS back to the terminal users. At no place of the process, we are owner of the molecule, so we provide infrastructure and the possibility to convert the certificate. There are different ways to liquefy biomethane in Europe. The first one, straightforward, is of course to have a cryogenic process at the biomethane production site. Of course, this has a CapEx and also OpEx impact if you decide to go through this pathway. The advantage of this first pathway, of course, is that 100% molecular biomethane is being liquefied. And then we have two other pathways that we see as complementary for the market. The second one, gas grid liquefaction, is the pathway that was so far the case for the terminal. We have liquefier equipments inside the terminal that were used to bring the possibility to convert biomethane into bio-LNG. The fact that the terminal was connected to the gas grid was, of course, an important parameter. And the beauty of that second pathway is that depending on the site, depending on the efficiency of the liquefaction process, you have different possibilities of emission factors, emission from processing factors. The terminal in this kind of process is quite efficient and is delivering a very low factor. And then there is the third pathway, equivalence liquefaction, sometimes called liquefaction by equivalence. This new pathway will be introduced, something new at the end of this year. There, the mass balance principle is enlarged to the terminal infrastructure. The mass balance principle, in 2 words, has the possibility to inject biomethane somewhere in the European gas grid, and by mass balance, claiming that the same gas quantity is transferred to the Zeebrugge terminal. Right, it's a well-recognized European principle that has been recently enlarged to the terminal infrastructure, so the LNG storage included. So that means that in the future, LNG, together with a biomethane proof of sustainability certificate, will be able to be converted to bio-LNG. And this, of course, opens the way for large volumes as it is demanded now by the maritime world, the maritime segment. With equivalence liquefaction at Fluxys LNG, we'll have a default emission from processing factor that is derived directly from the European regulation. So let me finish with the 2 services that will be active at the Fluxys LNG terminal at the end of this year. First, the recondenser liquefaction, which is a physical liquefaction process, is to be seen as a premium service because it delivers a very low emission from processing, so more value delivered for the client, for the shipper. Of course, it comes with a limited capacity, that is the capacity of the liquefiers. We have 2 periods for this product. The long-term capacity is the capacity we are certain to produce next year because it is linked to the minimum activity in the terminal. And then we have the short-term capacity, that is all the additional production of the liquefiers that comes in addition during the year. So considering now that this capacity is limited for high market demand, this capacity of recondenser liquefaction will be sold via auctions to the highest willingness to pay to give a fair chance to all the clients. The long-term capacity will be sold in the coming months, December for the next year, and the short-term capacity will be sold at every quarter. So we're following the ICC mass balance period of 3 months. So every quarter, at the beginning of the quarter, a dedicated auction for what has been produced additionally by the recondensers. Auction will start at the regulated price, which is today 2.1 euro per megawatt hour. And in parallel to that, in addition to that, we'll have equivalence liquefaction. There, the emission from processing is derived from the regulation, 3.6 grams CO2 equivalent per megajoule. That's the value for Belgium. Belgium has an average value in Europe. It's not the best value. The best value is probably in France because of the fact that the carbon intensity of the power in France is involved in this formula. And so France has a nuclear capability to produce electricity. So they have a factor around 1.4 gram. So if you may be interested by the service we have in Dunkirk, for example, you may benefit from a lower value. And of course, the capacity for equivalence liquefaction is much more important, is related to the LNG terminal capacity to handle LNG. And so this capacity you see here on the slide is to be seen as almost unlimited, considering it's by 2 orders of magnitudes above the current market demand. So this capacity will be sold on request without the need for upfront booking at a regulated tariff, which is attractive, that also reflects the difference in carbon intensity, the difference of emission from processing. Regulated tariff that will be in December around €1 per megawatt hour. So new service at the end of this year. This gives me the opportunity to end this presentation, and let's go for the question and answer. And we'll do our best, Henning and myself, to answer your questions. Of course, you're also welcome to contact us via info.biolng@fluxys.com.